What does music and flycasting have in common? That is the question we're dealing with in this episode, and I welcome you warmly to it. Make yourself a warm beverage, kick back. Music and flycasting have a lot in common, especially in terms of rhythm, timing, and flow. Rhythm and timing is just like playing an instrument, requires precise timing between notes, and good flycast relies on the rhythm of the back and forward strokes or the D formation. If the timing is off, the cast falls apart like a melody falls apart when the music is out of timing. Smooth transitions in both abrupt or jerky movements can ruin the final result. Be it music or casting, a musician must transition smoothly between notes, just as a flycaster must make fluid interchangements or fluid motions to avoid a sloppy cast. How do you avoid a sloppy cast? Just a little question throwing in between. But let's have a look further on what music and flycasting also has together, and that is feel and intuition. Great musicians and flycasters develop an intuitive sense of timing and control. You don't just play the notes or cast the line, you feel the motion and adjust naturally. Yeah, I personally think there's another approach to that feeling that is not mentioned here, which I explain you further in my online tuition, one-on-one tuition classes. But the other thing is practice, and a thing that is often called muscle memory. Mastery in both requires repetition and refinement. As well, music as well as flycasting needs practice. A guitarist, for example, practices scales, while a flycaster practices different types of casts or tricky presentations for tricky customers, and mends, for example. Over time, the motions become second nature. That muscle memory thing is, in my opinion, a little bit of a tricky customer in itself, because muscles have no memory. And once you can feedback yourself through a process, you learn that it doesn't need that there's a different way how to feel a flycast, for example. I'm personally not musical or not a musician at all, and that's probably the reason why I'm such a shite caster, and why it took me 20 years to learn casting halfway decently, and then another 10 years to start asking questions on how to make it easier. Because may it be music or flycasting, both of them are like an art and a form of expression. Whether it's a soulful guitar solo or a perfectly executed cast, both can be deeply expressive and personal. The best flycasters, like the best musicians, have all their own tune, their own interpretation, or their own style, or their own vibe to their own casts or tunes or music. So in short, both are about harmony between movement, timing and control, whether it's casting a fly line onto a string or playing a melody on a violin. Now, learning to play an instrument is, in my opinion, far more difficult than learning how to flycast. And one of the greatest flycasters of all time was also a great musician. Violin builder and rod builder at the same time. Alexander Grant from Scotland, who lived from 1856 to 1942, born on a croft at Battengorm near Granton on Spain. We make an episode especially on Alexander Grant after I have talked with a couple of specialists that I have still here in the entire loop floating about. So I'm just saying that Grant's deep understanding of vibrations, influenced by his expertise in violin making, led him to revolutionize fly fishing, fly casting and fly fishing equipment when he back in 1894 invented the Grant vibration fly rod. But we talk about that on another episode, because he was also having musical endeavors, and he was in the Highlands Society, some music, very engaged and deeply into music and vibrations anyway. And he also outcast us all for 100 years, and probably would still do that if you would give him today's equipment. I would be highly interested what that dude would have achieved. Alexander Grant, the dual master in both fly fishing and music. We talk about him in another episode. What I wanted to talk about too is what music, I left you with in the last episode, I left you with the questions: what is music and what is fly casting made out of, or what do they have in common? And music is made out of several fundamental elements that work together to create sound and expression, and these include a melody, a harmony, a rhythm, a tempo, dynamics, and also a form and a texture. So what I'm saying to you is, music is defined by certain mathematic-like structures to communicate it and to replicate it, and it's like a universal code. The universal code of vibration and rhythm. That is what music is made out of, in my opinion. And people who are musically tight and good musicians, usually also have an easy time to learn fly casting. Why is that? And what is a fly cast made out of in comparison to music? Or because a fly cast is also made out of several key elements that work together to create an efficient and accurate presentation of the fly. Elements like a rod load, elements like straight lines, elements like curves, elements like line speed, elements like timing, like acceleration, like what is called stopping the rod but releasing the tone out of the system, if you so want. How do you release the load out of a fly rod? Wind and water conditions play a role here too. Not like with music, where you're usually undisturbed and you can play just your tune like you want. No. In fly casting you get outer influences, disturbance on the system. Wind, bushes, all kinds of stuff, people watching you, laughing about your casting maybe. That is outside influences that are different. Final presentation, the delivery of the music. Who do we deliver our deadly tune to? That is the fish, and he must not be spooked. However you think about what music and fly casting have in common, Music has also a lot in common with mathematics. And mathematics and music share a very deep connection because both are based on patterns, structures and relationships, and here are some key ways how they overlap. Rhythm and time signatures. Music relies on beats and time signatures like the 3/4 or 4/4 or which are, I don't know, have the special German, English, what it's called. It would be in German a Dreivierteltakt or a Viervierteltakt. Mathematical divisions of time, rhythm patterns often follow mathematical sequences. Frequencies and harmonics is another thing, that musical notes are corresponding to specific sound wave frequencies which follow mathematical ratios. Harmonics and overtones are based on divisions of waveforms. I only seen last week a very, very interesting video where they destroy microorganisms with the form of waves. If I find it, I throw it in.
Frequency must be 11 times the lower. It's what we musicians would call the 11th harmonic. And when we add the 11th harmonic, we begin to shatter microorganisms like a crystal glass. These are the first videos taken. We showed these videos to our friends in the biology department. They said they hadn't seen anything quite like it. Seems to be a new phenomenon.
Here, but music and math also follows certain scales and intervals. There's certain patterns within a cast as well as in music, also as harmony. Harmony and symmetry, very important. Symmetry and geometry even exist in music. Chords, melodies, and rhythms can be represented using geometrical shapes. And, of course, out of all of them you get combinatorics, combinations, and permutations. The number of possible note or cast combinations or musical tune combinations, chord progressions, and rhythmic variations can be analyzed using mathematical principles like permutations and probability. And the other thing is Fourier analysis and sound waves. Now here is where it gets really interesting, because mathematicians use the Fourier analysis to break down complex sound waves into simpler components, helping with music synthesis and sound engineering. That's actually very, very interesting, because we are also cast engineers here, or we are cast teaching technique engineers here. And that's why we have to look into these connections of music, mathematics, and flycasting, and where we find common, universally applicable principles. And I'm talking a lot of stuff here, but you see yourself that there are certain connections to be made here too. Thanks for watching and tuning in again. I hope you enjoyed this little episode here a little bit, where we are comparing the common, not comparing, but we are bringing together the
common denomination in flycasting determination.
Commonnesses of mathematics, music, and flycasting. In one of the next episodes we have to talk about learning again, and also about a big old supercaster, Alexander Grant. I'm looking forward to this episode. And I thank you very much for watching, for tuning in again, and please do not forget to like and to subscribe to the channel, and also that we don't own the water, but the water owns us.